Hello everyone, I am Bryn Emmengard, and today we Emmengardians will be talking with a bunch of other plural content creators about the work that they do and how it relates to plurality, or even if it doesn't, how their plurality and their experience of the world influences their work. So we for ourselves are mostly painters, and we're very open and vocal about our plurality in all of the art spaces that we exist in. However, not all of our paintings are really explicitly about being plural. I would say the majority of them really aren't. However, we have very different styles from each other. Various people paint. So we have a lot of different styles, which I think is very different from a singlet. I think that sometimes they can have varying styles that they sort of work within, but usually it's not to the degree that a plural artist might have. So that's one thing that sort of impacts our work from that plural perspective. But then other of our work is specifically about plurality, and it is really geared towards other systems, and that is the target audience. We don't actually really care how it's perceived by the general public or singlets. It's really for other systems and for plurals. So we work with both. We work in both of these realms. And then just balancing that is sort of a thing that you have to kind of think about when you're a plural content creator. So we wanted to talk with some others about their experiences with all of this, and I will go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, we are the Stronghold System, founders and CEOs of the Plural Association. We are 33 years young from the Netherlands, parents of an amazing child, and we are plural. Our collective pronouns are they, them. 10 years ago, we started a self-exploration into plurality after being diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder and put on a 4-year-long waiting list for specialized therapy. We started Power to the Plurals in 2017, an empowerment and peer support network. After following educational training in both the Netherlands and America, we now personally oversee the team of 50 trained peer support volunteers, and together we support over 2,500 members in our support group Alternation on Facebook. We wrote and published over 50 articles and resources on our Power to the Plurals website, and our YouTube video channel with nearly 3,000 subscribers receives over 50,000 new views each year. In February 2020, we started the Plural Association, TPA, the first registered grassroots nonprofit for people with DID and all other forms of plurality. TPA depends fully on community and ally support. Our main goal is the empowerment of plurals. We are building a plural warmline platform where plurals and their system members can share their stories and worries with a lived experienced trained plural. TPA is proud sponsor of the Plural Positivity World Conference, and we are honored to be part of this panel session about content creation. Thank you for having us here.
Hello, I'm Kyra. I am one of the authors and artists on the webcomic Faces of One. I post on Tumblr, Reddit, and Instagram. And we do a tri-weekly 4-panel format comic based around our experiences as multiple.
Hi, we're the Crisses, and we are authors. We write in both the fiction, like sci-fi, fantasy, contemporary fiction genre. We do poetry. We are a podcaster. We do nonfiction writing, including business writing and self-help writing, both for plural and non-plural audiences. We are mental health advocates and activists, so we write on that. And we are the primary content creator for the wiki called kinhost.org, which started from the Otherkin plural community and now covers a great deal of both, I guess, total content for plurals and those of plurals who are DID, OSDD systems, plus plural supporters, family and friends, and there's several systems who have their own space on the Kinhost wiki where they describe their system, so that's also where we put our personal content. For a while we were producing the Farmer Yard podcast as well. So we're occasionally a guest speaker on other people's podcasts, both in and outside of Plurality, but we're always open about being plural.
How much of your content is plural focused? If you do any non-plural focused work, does your plurality still factor into the final piece, and in what ways?
The whole of our content is plural focused, as it is based around my day-to-day experiences and my past experiences living as a plural. So I would say that I create solely plural content.
I'd say the overwhelming majority of our current content is plural focused. We resigned from the Farmyard community and being the producer of the podcast so we could focus on plural content. And we have put off most of our fiction and fantasy writing in order to focus on plural activism and trying to confer our 50 years of knowledge and information about plurality to others before we retire and go back to being a fiction writer. So I'd say the overwhelming majority is, and whenever we're doing something else, it's still always going to be informed by our plurality. We can't help it. We're out in many communities on purpose because we need more plural visibility out there. And more singular folk are taking plural seriously in various domains. And as long as we're out and other people talk about us being out as if it's nothing, the better it is. You know, that when we're introduced, it's not a thing. It's not this is so surprising and interesting. It's just, this is who they are. And I think that makes a big difference in plural acceptance overall.
Our first answer is going to be a short one. All our content is plural related and plural focused.
Who is your intended audience, and is that something that factors into how you all approach your work?
In our plural content and our podcast, we're usually focused on newly awakened systems or systems that are still struggling with internal community issues, where headmates aren't getting along, where they're struggling to find each other, build up communication, make agreements with each other, and basically we're working on what we consider to be the missing link in most of therapy. When a singular therapist is working with a plural system and has only singular knowledge about how things work, how internal dynamics work, how to get along, we figure they are underqualified, or their methods may not be the most expedient to making things work out better for the plural system. So we work on materials to help people bridge that gap as kind of an adjunct for therapy, to hopefully have therapists recognize it as being positive and beneficial and recommending it to their clients, or clients bringing it to their therapists and say, hey, let's work on this together. This content feels right to me, or it applies to me, and I need some help and guidance going through this work and accountability. So can you help me? And that's the niche that we're trying to fill with most of our content.
When we started Power to the Plurals in 2017, we mostly focused on people with dissociative identity disorder and OSDD or DDNOS. These days, we really try to make all our content plural-friendly, disordered or not, and no matter where people are on their journey. And also, we are updating the language we used back in the day, in the past, to make it more consistent and better reflect our inclusiveness in all our work. So our intended audience is plurals worldwide.
My intended audience is first and foremost other systems, and I like to create something that is relatable and comforting for others who have experienced things in a similar fashion that I have. But I also really enjoy reaching out, and my audience being non-plurals, both regular people and especially when I can reach people in the mental health industry like therapists and doctors. I have gotten some feedback from therapists, and it really makes a difference because they're the people who are going to be needing to understand systems and plurals, and just being able to kind of show them a different view of life as a system, different than just the standard textbook and medical book ideas. Just truly put, a human face on it. Faces.
Who are some plural content creators that have inspired you all and your work?
Emma Sunshall from the System Speak podcast and blog have really inspired us. They bring such a unique view to the playing field of plural content creation. Also, the Crisses from kinhost.org and Liberated Life Coaching have really opened our eyes and taught us so much about plurality, and their content has truly inspired us and helped us to make us realize how we wanted to create our content.
First and foremost, I have to thank Emmengard and their series, The Blobbies. That is in the early stages of when I started doing work. It really inspired me to see another creator out there creating something that was, easily understandable, very much relatable, very powerful in their work. And so that was a big inspiration to start. And then as I've continued on, I think other artists do, I had a lot of doubts and feelings of should I continue doing this? Is this something that's worthwhile? And there have been more plural artists and comic creators that have kind of come out around the same time that I've been doing my stuff as well, and seeing their work also inspires me, and it keeps me moving forward. I wanted to mention Broken Brain Adventures. They do hand-drawn comics based around their system, and I think they have a very unique and interesting style, and their content is it's very personal to their system, but it's also things that I have felt and experienced as well. There's a new one that I've been really enjoying. It's hello_from_system. They found on Instagram, and they do something very similar to both my style and the Blobbies style, while still maintaining their own unique style of it as well. They do 4-panel comics. They do them pretty frequently. I think they're hitting their stride right now. And then I also want to mention sandraws.nl. That's sandraws.nl. And while they're not solely plural focused, they've been doing a lot of stuff that has been inspiring and has just been truly heartfelt and emotional, and you can really feel that they understand. So I mean, I'm constantly finding inspiration and motivation through other plural content creators. I think it's a pretty good community that we've created.
We started creating content so early on in terms of the visual internet. I'm not, the graphic internet, that we kind of trailblazed a lot of our work, but we also had other people helping us along the way. So I would say it was contemporaries who really inspired us. It was a community effort to start building kinhost.org, and so I would say Dolta House, I don't know how to pronounce it, but Castaglan and Arwen, members of their system, and they started, after we started kinhost.org, they started Positively Plural, which is no longer up, unfortunately, but they started branching off into more of the Plural community at the time. But we were still working hand in hand with them. Bob King, we just had like Estrella. We had a lot of contemporaries at the time who we were all pushing the envelope for content development, if you will, for Plurals and other kin systems. And this was just undocumented territory we went off into, and there wasn't a lot of things. There was no YouTube at the time. This is predating YouTube. It's predating Google. So yeah, it was just like a group of us all in the same mailing list who were pushing the envelope and saying the materials out there don't talk about us. They don't cover us. So we have to create this ourselves. Collaborating and building documentation and discussing things ad infinitum on email lists and so on.
What are some of the challenges that you face as a Plural content creator?
For us, a really big challenge is pushback from some members of the community. There was a point where we would get fan mail from people, from family members, from husbands and wives, and saying, there's nothing out there like this. Oh my God, thank you. This helped me so much. People getting lost in 300 plus page, website of resources, and coming out feeling more normal, more like, oh my goodness, my experiences are not so strange. There's other people like me, and so on. But now we get more and more pushback from people within the Plural umbrella, or whether they want to claim it or not, but lowercase p, people with experience of being many, who have their own idea of how things are, have misread the medical manuals, have decided on various dogma and things that don't matter or don't count and should not be talked about, who will argue and complain about the things that we cover when they're vastly normal human experiences across the wide spectrum. We get less pushback from therapists. We've had therapists who pay us for consulting to talk to us about normal plural experiences from the inside, so that they can understand their own clients better. Or we get thank yous from various therapists. Plus, we also get a lot of encouragement from plural therapists who are either in training or already licensed, who find our information helpful for them as well. We just keep doing what we're doing because we know it works for people, in spite of the naysaying and the discouragement and sometimes active attacks and trolling and stuff, often from within our own community. It's pretty interesting that attitudes seem to have changed. I mean, I think this community has always had a divide in it of the people that have a more broad understanding of plurality and those who have a more narrow medical understanding of plurality, but never before have so many crossed that divide in order to actually attack us.
When we started, we felt it was important to not switch in our videos. We felt like that was the most professional thing we could do, I guess. We also worried that switching on camera would trigger people. And so back in the day when we started, it was normal to trigger warning that on YouTube if you switched because it could make other people switch potentially, maybe. Um, and that was really hard for us, and it got harder and harder the more we accepted our plurality in real life to not do it on camera. And it got really to a point where it became very hard to create videos and where people started to protest when we did. And yeah, so that was really a challenge for us. Sometimes we have bad days. It's really hard for us to be consistent. YouTube really likes that. If you can upload every week on the same day at the same time, YouTube will be like, yay, well done. And we can do that. So that's, just what we found out, that it's putting too much pressure on us. And it's hard to keep up because we don't know who's going to be there, and not everyone wants to make videos. And yeah.
What sort of content do you hope to see from other Plural creators in the future?
What we want to see in the future are plural screenwriters, plural journalists, like news journalists, more people crossing the bridge between plurality and singular content experience, so that we're just more present, more omnipresent, that there's more people exposed to plural normalcy, if you will. Like, we want sitcoms with the main character's roommate being plural and just occasionally some kind of a weird wisecrack, but it's not really like the center of the episode, and there's no murder, there's no betrayal kind of thing. It's all just like, yeah, this is my wacky roommate, or even this is my normal roommate. This is normal for them, and I'm completely accepting of it. Things like that. We just want to see more mainstream content that touches on plurality. I want the daytime soaps to cover it as not a thing, as not a big deal.
I hope in the future there will be more various content that is not educational, but for example, just a gaming channel or a cooking channel where various people in systems play and show their favorite game or cook their favorite foods and eat it, something like that. We would really enjoy that over the pure educational content that we see a lot right now.
Honestly, just more of the same. I think other creators are doing a great job. I think personal stories is a great way to go. I often say I only draw from my own experiences because I can't speak for anybody else. I can't speak to what someone else feels and how they go through things. And so I use my own experiences as, where I pull my creativity from. And I think a lot of other content creators do the same. And I think that's great because as a reader, we get to see different facets and how different systems work, and how, it's not just a cookie cutter that every system, experiences the same things or has the same style of system or the same type of alters. And so yeah, I would love to see more content creators. I would love to see different systems out there, and more larger systems, smaller systems, just different types of systems in general. That's what I'd like.
How has creating your content helped you in your system?
Our own content has definitely helped our system in the past and in the current day. We still send people to our video for new alters, which should be called the video for new headmates or something like that. But it still has the old name. And someone found out they are a subsystem because of one of our videos pretty recently. So it has really helped us, and it's comforting for some people. For other people, it's very hard to watch macro videos, but for some people, it's been very helpful.
Creating the Faces of One comic has really helped us communicate better and work together as a team, because we're all working towards a common goal, and it helps us because during that time, we put aside our fights, we put aside any kind of personal differences, and we work together to bring content out there. It's given us a voice. It created it allowed us a way to connect with one of our mute alters, because she'll give us feelings, either yes or no, based around what we're drawing and things like that. So it's really helped us to kind of understand her a little bit better visually. And creating this content has really been able to let out an outlet for us all that we didn't have before. We didn't have the ability of talking about some of the stuff that we wanted to talk about. We tried doing it in written word, and we just couldn't. We were just not as happy with it as we are with our comics. And so I truly think that by creating content, it is very much helped us. It's hard to explain. It's hard to put into words what life would be like without something when you didn't experience it that way. And to... How do I put this? I don't know what life would be like right now if I hadn't started creating the Faces of One comic, but I'm glad that I did.
We are really glad we document stuff for other systems, because sometimes somebody in here needs it. We don't always remember our own wisdom or what we've written. I mean, we're talking 20 plus years of content, so we often don't remember something we may have written ourselves. Sometimes we end up going back and rereading something and finding it helpful. Plus also, just in putting things into words can help consolidate information, consolidate different fields of inspiration, so that you consolidate that information. I don't know how else to put it, but it can bring you new understanding to write your own perspective on something. We are longtime journalers and so on, just for the flashes of inspiration and I guess coalescing new information together. It's easier for us to do our thinking on paper sometimes, even as a group. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things. Teaching other people teaches us as well. And we're not afraid to own up to being a hypocrite and say, wow, I just gave you this wonderful information and I'm not doing it myself, so now I'm going to go off and do it. So that's a frequent go-to for us, is we sometimes need to take our own advice and actually follow it.
And finally, do you all have any words of advice for plural systems who want to start developing their own content?
My words of advice is, get started. If this is something that you want to do, just knock one out and go from there. It's very hard to say just start, because there's a mountain of doubt, and there's a mountain of struggle that goes along with putting yourself out there and creating art. Especially if you want to create content and produce this art for other people and post online and represent yourself and your emotions. So it is very daunting to just start, but it is honestly the best way to go. You can't reach your 60th until you've reached your first. And I would say specifically for plural systems, I would say try to give everybody a chance to have their own voice, try to give everybody a chance to develop their own style or even understand themselves using art. And I think that's very helpful.
I would say follow your own content area. Don't necessarily have to do what everybody else is doing. Just because podcasts are a viable venue doesn't mean that's your venue. Just because people are doing YouTube videos doesn't mean you also have to do YouTube videos. I want to see more content creation throughout the arts, throughout all of the possible venues. So I want plural journalists. I want plural rappers. I want plural screenwriters, like I mentioned earlier. So I want to see people in every venue possible creating. I mean, I don't care if it's plural pottery, whatever. If you find a way of expressing your plurality in a different medium or venue, please do. Whatever you're comfortable with. Plural interpretive dance, plural music scores for soundtracks. Whatever it is that really floats your boat, bring that to the world. We need a lot more visibility across the board.
Our advice is to do it in a way where you're safe, where it can be used against you. We've all seen the drama going down on kiwi farms recently. So please be careful and mindful and make sure that your personal data is protected if that's important to you. And also make sure your system is okay with it, that people are on board, and that you do it together and that you do it because you think it's fun, because you're having fun doing it. And I think that's really important, that you're all having fun and enjoying yourselves while creating content.
We want to thank Emmengard for bringing us this panel and helping to moderate it. We also want to thank all of the content creators, both the participants of the panel, but in general. We have been around a long time and we've seen a lot of things. And what we haven't seen is this much content before. When we started out, there was basically nothing. And now there's an enormous amount of content out there. And whether we agree with it or not isn't the point. Everybody is increasing visibility for plurals and DID systems, which is so very important to normalize it, to let people know we're here. We're not going to be quiet anymore. We're not going to let you oppress us. We're going to have a voice. We're going to have a venue. And, sit down, shut up. We're going to be producing content, and we don't care what you say. We're still going to be producing content. They can't slam us back into the dark ages of not existing anymore. We are here.
Thank you all so much for watching this video on content creation. We hope you had fun watching this panel. Thank you to the other panelists for joining us here today. Thank you for hosting this panel. And we hope you enjoy the rest of the Plural Positivity World Conference 2020. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Bye.
It's been wonderful creating the Faces of One comic, and it's been wonderful the feedback and response that I've gotten from the community, from you, the readers. It's something that I was very hesitant and nervous about, but I was welcomed with open arms into the community, and for that I'm very grateful. And I hope to continue to do good work for you all, as well as for myself. But the responses from readers and avid fans has made a world of difference, and is really given me confidence in what I'm doing. And I think as an artist, it's a very valuable feeling, and it's fleeting. So I would say as if you want to start creating content, I would say share it with the world. It is it makes a difference, not just for yourself, not just for our community, but for plurality overall. Without representation, without things like the Plurality Convention conference, things without little infographics describing and explaining what it's like to be a plural. All of that just helps other people understand us and our communities. So yeah, I would say just keep out there, keep talking, keep the conversation going. Well, thank you very much for watching my video and listening me out. I hope you go check us out and go check out those other artists that I mentioned. Definitely, if you haven't heard of them, definitely go check them out. They all have a plenty amount of stuff to go through, so it'll entertain you for a while. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you to all of our Plural content creators for participating in this panel. It has been a wonderful experience, and I'm so glad that we got to hear from you all. I hope you all just keep doing everything that you're doing. You're doing an amazing job, and take care.